welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be building a dock ferry. So it kind of came up with this project partially from watching Lord of the Rings, the Bucklebury ferry that they escape on in that Fellowship of the Rings, the very first movie, and partially from a battle map that I kind of set up for the global campaign where I had these two islands. I really only had like a canoe or something to get across or a longboat. And I kind of wanted to have something, besides a bridge. I came up with using a ferry. So I kind of want to, of course, this one has very similar feeling to it, like the Lord of the Rings one. But I would say it was a blood and plunder flair. I added swivel guns to it and kind of made it more piratey, definitely for sure, if that's even a word. But I definitely wanted to make it more compatible for that terrain. But this is a great project for, if you play Dungeons and Dragons or a lot of tabletop games where you could use a ferry in some kind of RPG of some sort. So let's take a look at it. This is the finished product. So I definitely spent a lot of time doing some light effects on here again. I'm thinking about kind of maybe doing an episode where I just do a paint tutorial on doing light effects. Now, I do cover this in this episode, but a more in-depth, step-by-step process of doing that. But I definitely do cover that in here. So this is kind of what we're going to be building. It's just kind of a little ferry here. We got a lamp that we built. We got the paint job, of course. And I'm going to show you how to build this and paint this in this episode. So that's pretty much it. If you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when we start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table and let's start painting and let's start crafting. Okay, let's start off by looking at some of the materials we'll need to use for this project. Lots of dowels for sure. These are medium-sized dowels. We got some flat balsa wood. We got some barbecue skewers. We got popsicle sticks. All manners of different types of wood. That's some square balsa wood. And then we get some hobby wood that you get from a craft store. You get little circles or triangles or squares and stuff like that. I didn't actually end up using that foam. I got some chain and some magnets. I ended up using a dowel instead of the foam. And then we got all sorts of bits, and that's some twine. Now, the bits are just leftover parts from the ship, but you could use pieces of dowels instead of that. So I cut these all in equal size, and then I carved them up with my hobby knife to just give it to more of a timber feel. Opposed to looking like a dowel. And you can see I scraped right into it to give it just kind of a bark feel to it. So it's still time consuming, but it's worth it. It adds a lot of extra detail. Yeah, so I, just showing you that I did all of them, and then I plan on gluing them all together with that white tacky glue. So I'm kind of making a good base. You can see I put a generous amount of glue on there. Once that dries, it's like solid. It's not going anywhere. Now, I kind of... These weren't tall enough to reach up to my existing docks. So I kind of had to add a little skinny, kind of like a coffee stir stick underneath those square balsa wood framing that I'm going to put all the docks on. I do end up deciding to put one in the center as well. As you can see, I got 3. Just gives it a little more support for those popsicle sticks that are going to be sitting on top. As you can see, I texturized those as well, kind of rough ends on it, just to kind of match the rest of the docks that I've built before. Just showing you I use my hobby knife to, score in that details on there. And so before I put those planks down, I decided to paint actually the inside with black craft paint. Once I put those planks on, I can't really get in there. And I want it to be dark, so just in case you could see through some of the cracks on some of those sticks, it would be black underneath and you wouldn't be able to see anything. So you can see I added 2 frames on the front of each side, kind of make it a little bit of flat on the front. So I added an extra popsicle stick on either end. And then added little chunks of dowels and balsa wood square pieces, just to kind of imply that the post goes right through the framing. I didn't want to. I just wanted to have a flat top and just glue them on. I just figured that would be easier than cutting those popsicle sticks around posts. So I'm just showing you that's what I did on those details. So now I'm starting to glue the posts on the top. And I kind of made these two end posts similar to my docks where I had multiple different shapes. I made that one taller because I plan on putting the lamp on it. And the other ones are kind of square because I do want to add a swivel gun to a couple of those. I decided to put a little trim framing on there. I put some white glue, but I'm just using those bottles to hold it down while it dries so it dries flat. And we're going to build a lamp now. So I got that little small circular hobby pieces. And that was just a dowel that I chunked, essentially cut a chunk off. And then some of that leftover wood I had from that ship build. And then the magnets. So I ended up using one half of the magnet, and I snipped actually the loop on the end off. So it lies flat on the top of that lantern. And then the other bit, really actually I just had the chain hanging and it just magnetized to the chain. So that's that skinny balsa wood, and I just cut it with my X-Acto blade really small, and I want to put a little framing on my lantern. And I'm just showing you I'm going to hot glue that part on the top. The other pieces I use white glue, but that top part I'm going to hot glue it. So this is after I've added everything. You can see I've added that magnet to the top. So now I want to add that framing to hold the lantern. So this is just a barbecue skewer that I cut two ends off, and it makes a good size post for to hold my lamp on. So then I got this kind of this hobby chain that I got from Michaels, and I just made equal chunks I cut off with those snippers. And really because I want to put them in between each one of these posts. They're equally separated apart from each other. So I wanted those chains to be the same size. And I just used hot glue to glue those on. So this is where I added those circular hobby pieces again. Really just to cover where the two meet. So you can't really see the hot glue that they're connected to. It's hidden behind those circular pieces. So I kind of really like that idea when I put it together. It really hides the hot glue, and I'm really impatient. I did the same thing there because I glued that post on there with hot glue as well. As you can see, I just have the chain glued on the top to the post, and then really the lamp just hooks onto with the magnet. Works out real good. As usual, I usually take a mini out and make sure everything's measured out good, and everything looks pretty good. So I'm just showing you those other posts, the ones without the lamp. I plan on putting twine on them. So I really want to match the docks that I've built before. I always put little twine on the posts on there. Just what they would have ropes that they would have used to connect to the main dock. So I usually start them with some hot glue, and then I add white glue on. So I put a blob of hot glue, and that's where I start the twine, and then I wrap it around that post, and then just add a bunch of white glue on there that holds it in place. So I told you I plan on putting some swivel guns. So these are Blood and Plunder cannons that you would use for the game. So I wanted to add that to this. Of course, you don't have to put that on there if you're not intending using it for that. I just use like a finishing nail, and I just kind of tap the hole in there. It's a good size for a swivel gun, and it fits perfectly in there. So I'm just showing you that. So the lamp's all done. Swivel guns are all done. Everything's constructed. Now we have to move to paint. So as usual, going to my multi-surface black craft paint by Folk Art, and we're going to cover the entire piece, including the lamp and the swivel guns. Yeah, everything's covered. So I just want to show you that I've covered absolutely everything in that craft paint. Now I've let that dry for 24 hours. Then you get it, you don't want to do it too early because it'll start smudging into things. Just give it a good 24 hours. Everything's solid when you're done, and you can start painting really like I like to do really harshly with my brush. So that's my real brown. In a previous video, I kind of spent a lot of time explaining this painting technique. But we'll go over it briefly again in this video. But if you want a more in-depth one, just go back to the previous video to this one, where it's a painting tutorial on that buildings. I think it's called painting tutorials for buildings. So now we're going to move to the bark brown, the much lighter brown, and again, just kind of slowly lightening the whole piece up, putting multiple layers. And starting to lighten up the center of the walkway where we're going to put the weathering. And of course, eventually we're going to add the light effects on there. So I'm ready, starting to lay the groundworks to where I want it to be lighter on this piece by slowly adding lighter layers to the overall piece. So now we move to Pablo. So this is more of the orange color. Really quite bright, so make sure we're not using too much on our brush, and really just careful what we're tapping. We don't want to add too much orange on there. Just a little bit to highlight. Adds a good richness to the undertone of everything, especially when you're working on these woods. And these three colors I put on virtually all of my pieces of terrain. And in fact, most of my ships as well. There's a few that I've altered a little bit, but for the most part, these colors have been added to it. And it's like a good starting point. Add this colors into it, and then you kind of just build layers on top of that. So now I'm going to move to the camel. And we're not going to cover the entire piece in camel. We're just going to hit different areas. So I want to hit the ropes that I've added to the posts on here on either end, and kind of where the logs have been cut. So on the bottom, you see all those logs that are cut on the bottom, and the tops of the posts. And I kind of decided to do those little circular pieces too that I ended up hiding the chain and hot glue there. Just kind of looks like they're shaven pieces of timbers. And that's what I'm just showing you on there, just kind of highlighting some of the raised areas so you can see a little bit of a blob there. Again, I'm not too worried about getting my hands messy. I'll stick my finger in there and rub it out. Whatever. I'm really right into it when I'm painting this kind of stuff. So now we're going to do a mixture of real brown and yellow ochre, and I've showed this on the channel many times. This is how I lighten up my tops of my docks. You start with a mixture of the two colors together. I'm moving to that Army Painter dry brush. And really, I'm just rubbing it in there. So you start from the center, where it would be the lightest and most weathered. And you kind of just slowly brush it out to the edges. But you will have much brighter in the center of the dock, and it's much darker on the edges. So you're kind of just fading it out. So on here, I add also that mixture to the ropes because I wanted them to have a little more yellow feel to it, opposed to just the camel color, which is pretty light. It's not really naturally what a rope would look like. So I wanted to add some more colors to it. So the same thing goes for the areas of the wood that are cut. I did the same thing. I added that real brown and yellow ochre mixture. So now I'm just going to add yellow ochre on its own. So once I kind of laid down that darker undertone, I'm going to highlight it with just yellow ochre on its own. So this is much brighter, and we're going to take it a step further in brightening the top of these docks. This also adds to the area where we're going to do the light effects. It's good to have already have a solid base underneath where it's a little bit lighter. So I'm always taking into consideration of other things that I'm planning on painting further in the project, and that's how I apply the colors. It's all about layers. I add lots of layers to my pieces, and you can go further in which direction you want to. You want to go lighter, you want to go darker. You can with all these layers you're adding on. So we're going to hit a few contrast paints. So that's Skeleton Horde, Agrax Earth Shader, And we're going to hit all sorts of different areas. So this is that brush I was mentioning in the last episode. It's kind of thicker hairs on it, so it absorbs more of the wash when you stick it in there. And it's good for kind of hitting these areas. So I'm going to hit all that rope and kind of grunge the bottom up and some of the edges and kind of all the nicks and crannies and just kind of give it a good once over. You can see I've darkened it a little bit on the deck as well. And it also helps you fade the light to the dark on the top of the deck. So this is the lantern, and I have shown this painting technique in other episodes, in some of the ship builds. If you want to refer to that, I did it on, I believe, on the war sloop I've done it on, and in some of the other episodes of Galleon, where I showed you how to paint that. So I'm just showing you a little bit of dry brush, a little bit of gunmetal on those swivel guns, and I added a little bit to the lantern. So really all I do is I add the brightest yellow to the bottom and work our way up to the orange, and it gets kind of that mixture of the three colors in there. Really, I just make a stripe of all three and then kind of mix them into each other. But I guess I mentioned I've done that on a previous video. So that's Drake tooth. I'm just going to use that probably to lighten up some more of that rope. I'll dry brush it onto there afterwards, after I've added all the colors. And now we're going to address the wood. So Necromancer Cloak, Ash Gray, and that speed paint hardened leather, which I just did in the previous episode painting building tutorial. And I'll show you how to age wood. And I do that on here on the posts. And then I want to add some commando green for some grunge on there. So I didn't spend a lot of time showing you that because I've done those in previous videos. And I just did it in the previous video to this one. If you want to refer to that to learn how to do the techniques. So now we're going to do the light effects. So I start with the bright yellow. So I think this is dynamic or dramatic yellow. It's Army Painter paint. And I always hit where I think the light would hit first. So what I mean by that is like on an edge of something. So the edge of this post would be the brightest where the light hits first. And it kind of fades away into a darker oranges as it gets further away. So these edges is where it's going to hit first, and then it kind of fades off around the edge of the dock. So I kind of just go around, and that's kind of how I plan it out first. I kind of just take that yellow, and I hit all the different edges where that light is going to hit. So you can see I'm going up to the second set of posts now, and kind of just hitting those corners. Of course, I'm going to add some to the deck itself. Right underneath the lantern and kind of fade it more orange as it goes further away into the dock. It gets more warm color. So this is further along, and I've also added a black detail. So that's just black paint. I kind of made a blob underneath where, because this would be the shadow of the lantern itself. It has that trim on it. And the circle is actually the bottom of the lantern. If you look at something in natural light, that's what it looks like. It has that shadowing effect underneath. So I wanted to capture that. Now, I keep fading that out by adding more yellow. I just kept working yellows and oranges into each other until I was happy with the transition from bright yellow to a darker orange. So I reworked this for at least an hour for sure, where I started getting it where I wanted to. So this is where I want to show you the dramatic change. So you can see I got the light that carries through between the two posts, and I've emphasized it by painting it actually black. So I've taken black paint and put it right where the post would be, and I kind of highlighted where that black mark is on the top of the deck too. So I kind of just go back and overemphasize it. When you do that large contrast between the two, it really sells that light effect technique. Again, I think I'm going to do a separate video where I spend a lot more time on that. If you guys want to see that, leave a comment down below and let me know if you want to see a light effect video. All right, so let's take a look at the battle mat. I got, looks like some pirates trying to use that ferry that we built to get over to the Spanish side of the island. and they're gonna move this ferry over there. They got some cargo on there, got a couple swivel guns there to protect themselves, and they're trying to get to the other side, as you can see across the little water here, is ocean or shoreline here, and trying to get to the other side, to the Spanish. So I'm really happy with the way this project turned out. I really, it's kind of, I would say it's the project that I didn't think I needed, but when I built it, I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier. It really is I think it's going to be a fun piece to use in several matches of Blood and Plunder. And probably in future other games too. I'll probably use it in Blood and Steel and other games. So let's get one more look at it over here. Alright, that's a wrap on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.